Welcome to this session from the Global Green Action Day. This is the first warm-up session from this initiative, so thank you all for being here. Without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to present first the initiative. What is the Global Green Action Day? So I think it's important when we are talking about the Global Green Action Day to understand that this is not just one day. It's not just something that is going to happen once, but it's really about creating a movement of solutions, a movement of concrete, practical, actionable outcomes. So what we want to do is on the 5th of June, which is the UN World Environment Day, we are going to come together. It's going to be in Portugal, it's going to be in Austria and in Sweden, and also online. And we are going to work on practical challenges brought to us by organizations. But here's a twist. These are very complex challenges. It's not easy to just come together and find solutions immediately. So we find it's really important that we are aligned in advance so that when we meet, we can really hit the ground running and start driving change immediately. So therefore, we are going to have some pre-training, and it's obligatory to do this training in advance. So right now we have the warm-up sessions. This is a warm-up session. On the 21st of April, we are going to open the online training, and this training is on demand, so you can do it at your own pace. It has 3 modules that are compulsory, and this is around 12 hours that you can complete up to the 5th of June. We also have extra accelerator sessions, but those are optional. And then we meet on the 5th of June. In the morning, we're going to meet online. And in the afternoon, we meet kind of face-to-face on the different locations. We can now confirm that in Portugal, we are going to have a location both in Porto and in Lisbon. Thank you so much for APJ for hosting us in Porto. In Austria, we are going to be in Vienna, hosted by INITS. And in Sweden, we will be in Stockholm and also very likely in Helsingborg. We're still waiting for some details. Thank you so much for the partners that have joined this journey this far. It's really a community that we are trying to build here. So if you want to join, if you have an organization, an association that wants to be part of this journey, please join. We would like to say a special thank you for INITS that really made some of the contacts, some of the guests that we have here today were introductions coming from INITS. So thank you so much for that. Now, let's get started. What's the agenda for today? What is it that we are going to do together? So we are going to start with an introduction to sustainability-driven innovation. What is it? By myself, I'm Fernanda Toll, and I'm the CEO of Next Agents. We are going to have a panel with guests. I will be moderating it together with Evelina Lundqvist, that is the CEO of The Good Tribe. Thank you so much for our guests. We will have with us Alexandros Skouras, that is the commercial director at Paptic, Elena Yaneva, that is the CEO, co-founder of Hempstatic, and Philip Kraneviter, senior expert innovation manager at Greiner Innoventures. And then we are also going to have a Q&A session, and we have Amir Elion, that is the CEO of Think Big Leaders, that is going to be managing the Q&A. So feel free at any time, if you are joining in YouTube or if you're joining in LinkedIn, feel free to start posting questions and putting questions forward. We will be able to address your questions later on. Now, without further ado, let's really dive into what is this thing of sustainability driven innovation. So, I usually use this definition when I'm talking about what is innovation. Innovation is about inventing something, creating something, but also bringing it to market. So, invention and commercialization. Sometimes we have the idea that innovation is just about the ideation, coming up with ideas, but it's really about making sure that we bring them to market, that we can create value out of them. Otherwise, it's not really innovation. Okay, very good. But what is sustainability then? Okay, we have that somewhat loose definition of innovation. Then sustainability, there's also many different definitions. We can talk about donut economics, ESGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, planetary boundaries, etc. We can talk about reducing the negative impact. I find that we don't want to just reduce something, right? We want to actually create value also. So I very much prefer to talk about sustainability from the triple bottom line perspective. What is that happens when we are creating value for both the people, the planet, and making sure that our organizations are financially sustainable. So it's really interesting when we start understanding people, not only employees or traditional stakeholders within supply chain or shareholders, but the broader society. What is the value that we are bringing to them, and what is the value that we're bringing to the planet? What happens when the biosphere is a stakeholder, and within the sustainability, financial sustainability of the organization? Okay, very good. So we have a bit of an idea what is innovation and a bit of an idea what is sustainability. But sometimes we also talk about innovation in a way, this is also a cause for all the problems. We are in this mess in a way because of innovation. If we talk about consumerism, when we talk about the exponential exploitation of Earth systems, this research coming from the Stockholm Resilience Center, the Great Acceleration, is really interesting. It shows in a very visual way how we have been driving social economic trends like GDP, paper production, water use, transportation, telecommunication, etc., and how that has been done on the expense of Earth systems. So we have an exponential growth that is also kind of connected to this exponential exploitation of, ocean acidification, tropical forest loss, domestication of land, carbon dioxide emissions, etc. So, okay, we have innovation, but we could also say that innovation could be part of the problem because it has allowed us to exploit systems in this way. But here's an interesting thing. We see that it's possible to also create value without being coupled to this exploitation. A very good example is what has been happening with solar energy. So this graph shows the evolution of solar energy prices. And if we look at the early days in the 50s and the 70s, then it was extremely expensive. It was around $300 for the watt. This only made sense in very remote locations, in space, or in a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean, or very remote locations. But with further investment, further R&D, then in the 80s and 90s, it was able to really make a huge fall in price per watt. There were some really interesting policy changes, for example, in Germany in 2000s, big investments coming from China. All this has been really driving huge improvements, not only in the technology, but also how you implement it, making it cheaper to implement. And nowadays, solar is cheaper than fossil fuels in many locations. So what we see here is it's the how innovation can actually also help this development of finding solutions for the problems that we are facing. An interesting, I think, an interesting detail here comes from the International Energy Agency. So if we look into their report in 2021, they were looking at what do we need to do in order to achieve net zero by 2050. And they projected in 2021 that 50% of the world's emissions, the world's emissions cut, would come from tech that wasn't commercially available yet. So we only had 50% of commercially available solutions in order to address this. In just 2 years, in 2023, that projection has now dropped to 35%. So at the moment, we are missing, let's say, we don't have 35% of the technology is not yet commercially available. So it's really interesting how we look into innovation and how these solutions can really start addressing the sustainability problems that we are facing. This is an example coming from net zero emissions. This is what we call decoupling. Okay, so the idea of decoupling is that we are able to have development, have growth, and that is not made on the expense of Earth systems. Let's take a minute to kind of look a bit in depth into this graph. So we have there in the black dotted line GDP. So if we want to kind of maintain a steady growth with GDP, that can be done within coupling or recoupling when we see that the footprint rises faster or in par with GDP also. But we can also see there in the yellow part of the green and the graph, and even better in the green part of the graph, that it's possible to decouple, so that we are able to still have growth, but that is not made on the expense of Earth systems, in this case, looking at footprints. And ideally, we are there on the sufficient or absolute decoupling part of the graph. There's a moment there that we have the planetary boundaries and that we are able to still have growth, but that is not coupled. It's not made on the expense of the planetary boundaries. So we are doing enough to avoid irreversible ecological damage. This is basically the idea of green growth. The idea of green growth, it's a polemic idea. Still not sure if we can do this. I myself, I'm a firm believer that if we put our mind into it, we can have green growth. So it's this idea that we are able to generate value, create value, to have innovation in a way that is looking into the planet and people as a main stakeholder. So this is very much kind of the moment where sustainability and innovation management come together, right? So when we're able to do something that is good and that it creates value. But another aspect that I would like to point out of the intersection between sustainability, circularity, etc., together with innovation and innovation management, is that they share very similar capabilities. So just to try to put it a bit kind of in context, what are the traditional sustainability or circular projects? So these projects are characterized by very high uncertainty. There's uncertainty when it comes to regulation. Will governments enforce certain bans of products, like, for example, plastics, etc.? Consumer behavior. Will customers pay a premium for these kind of products? Also working in a context that itself is very uncertain. We are working in an environmental and a planetary context that might shift. How will global warming affect the availability of certain raw materials, for example? social and political uncertainty, uh, a lot that is happening right now in the world, looking at the political situation specifically in North America, has to do with a lot of backlash towards sustainability, anti-greenwashing aspects related to labor rights, etc. At the same time, we also have pure technological uncertainty. We have a certain solution. Can we scale it? Like I was saying before, from the report from the energy agency, there are solutions, but they're not yet commercial. They're not yet scalable. So there is technological uncertainty still. There's scientific and knowledge gaps. Um, there's aspects, for example, related with time. Do these materials degrade in real world conditions in the same way that we were expecting them to say to degrade, for example? And also business model uncertainty. Will customer accept a shift to access rather than ownership, and so on and so forth? So we are looking into a context where we are working and learning within chaos. And working with chaos, when I talk to sustainability people and I use that concept, is something that people relate to. Yes, feels like working with chaos, absolutely. But you know what? Here's the interesting thing. Who else has been working exactly with these kind of issues, with very uncertain regulatory policy, market, etc.? It's innovation management. Because every time that you bring something new to the market, there's a bunch of things that you don't know. There's a bunch of things that are new. That's the whole idea of innovation, that you're doing something that no one else has done before. So what we see is that, and what we are really trying to push forward is that innovation management has a lot of experience with these kind of challenges and has a very extensive body of knowledge that has been tested, proven. How do you work in this context of chaos? Innovation management has frameworks, methodologies that are change oriented. It's about managing different stakeholders, understanding failure, being future focused, collaborative, having a systems approach within an interdisciplinary context, a way of working that is a lot about placing bets, managing a portfolio of solutions. So a lot of the ways of working, the capabilities of innovation management, are actually a really good fit when we are talking about sustainability and circularity. So it's very much about kind of bringing these two groups of capabilities in an organization. I'm a firm defender that innovation and sustainability should not be separate departments in a business. They should be associated. They should be working together. They would win a lot from doing this together. A lot of the ways of working are the same. So it's very much around you know, understanding that innovation management is okay. You do innovation, you invent something, you commercialize it, but you do this continuously. You keep doing it over and over again, right? And then if you add this with sustainability, then sustainability driven innovation is very much around having the invention, the commercialization done continuously over and over again, together with the people and the planet. So it's a really interesting aspect. And now I'm just going to do here a pause, if you allow me to ventilate a bit. When we are talking about setting targets, for example, to organizations, countries, etc., it's extremely important. But we also should understand that this is not work that we arrive to a certain date and now it's done. Now we don't need to worry about this anymore. It's exactly like innovation, right? That is continuous. You create a system around it and you keep improving, you keep working in it, and challenges will change. So now it's the moment that you could say, okay, Fernanda, but you forgot the profit there. This slide has a typo. Where's the profit, right? Well, the profit is the consequence. If you do this right, you will be successful. There's no other way around it. But it is about making sure that you do it right, that you do have the right capabilities to drive this change. And I understand that this is not easy. This is not something that is simple to do. I really like this cartoon. Um, it happens quite often that if we have a sense of urgency, we know that we need to do something and we need to do it fast, then we just go ahead and do it. And we don't really have the time to reflect what's the best process, what's the best model, what's the best structure, etc. But it might be that we are failing when we otherwise we shouldn't have. And sustainability projects or adaptation or mitigation or green growth projects, etc., should fail because they were bad, inherently bad. It just didn't work out, not because it was poorly managed. So this is really kind of the balance that we are trying to bring between let's create solutions, let's innovate together, but let's also make sure that when we are doing that process, we are developing the right capabilities to be able to keep doing it over and over again. And that's a bit the idea with the Global Green Action Day, that we are not just doing solutions together, but we're also learning how we can do it together so that we can keep doing it repeatedly. So this is a bit an introduction, what I wanted to say about setting a bit here the agenda for the Global Green Action Day, but also for the panel today. A lot of the topics that I brought up, you will see, will also be now addressed by our panel of guests. So thank you so much to Alexandros Skouras, that is the commercial director at Paptic, to Elena Yaneva, the CEO and co-founder at Hempstatic. Thank you for being here. And to Philip Granevite, that is a senior expert in innovation management at Greiner Ventures. And I would also like to call here to the stage Evelina Lundqvist, that is my dear colleague here at the Global Green Action Day. So the idea with this panel, it's very much, I was giving a bit of an introduction, how we work with innovation and sustainability, how we bring them together. But there's nothing like hearing it directly from the source, right? How do you do it? So we have here 3 great examples of organizations that are driving sustainability-driven innovation. Can you please share with us your magic behind what you're doing? Evelina, would you like to take it away?
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much, Fernanda. I think we'll start with the slides. I think we can go with the order that Alexandros is starting. I think
Absolutely.
That would be great. Awesome. So we're loading the slides and then Alexandros can
Do you want to share your screen, Alex? Yeah, perfect.
Yep, I have. So thank you, Fernanda, for inviting us, myself and Paptic, on this great initiative. It's a real pleasure to be among you. I'm going to kick it off sharing a bit of information about Paptic, who we are, what we do, and basically why we're here today. So Paptic obviously sort of bridges paper and plastic into one word. And basically, as we promote, we say switching from plastics to Paptic. So in a nutshell, Paptic was introduced in 2015. It became commercially available within 2018. We're currently operating in more than 50 countries in the world, and we have raised through multiple funding rounds approximately 44.5 million euros. Our current headcount is around 52 employees and currently growing as we speak. So, in the words of our one of the founders, the world needs renewable and resource-efficient packaging materials, and they are needed now. Paptic is the game-changer solution to address this challenge. Having discussed with both the founders of the company, the basic idea was that we knew there was a need for sustainable alternatives to plastics, and we knew there was a way. So there had to be action to move towards that way. So practically identifying the gap and actually going finding the means in order to produce materials in a meaningful way that are able to fill this gap and bridge towards more sustainable alternatives to plastics. Currently, we're operating under main 3 pillars of commercial operations. One is our product packaging, and that includes packaging for sensitive surfaces, electronics, anywhere where surface protection is imperative. We have our bags commercial segment, which is basically what kicked off the operations of Paptic. So paper bags for various type of application. And of course, the segment that I lead, which is the hygiene segment, and we lead this segment by offering solutions either for individual wrapped products, either for fem care or light incontinence, as well as the secondary packaging of the outer packaging of all these solutions, which are aimed to address a suitable replacement for plastics or bioplastics, which are currently in use. So how do we perceive Paptic? We perceive Paptic as the fiber innovation company willing to redefine sustainability and performance in packaging materials with solutions that elevate user experience and bring further value by offering a distinct tactile experience, enhancing the product's perceived value. So our main focus and aim is not only to offer sustainable alternatives to plastics, but also demonstrate that sustainability through innovation can actually elevate the user experience and actually bring further value to the product packaging without any sacrifices in performance. So unique packaging material, unlike anything else on the hygiene market, specifically designed materials for the hygiene wrap applications, both for feminine care and baby care packaging needs. Optimized strength properties, so the material is up to par with existing plastics. Cost-efficient solutions. Recyclability is always a given, 100% recyclable, seamlessly integrated into widely available paperboard and recycling streams. Styling, handling, unique tactile experience, making this a future-ready packaging that aligns with upcoming regulatory standards, prioritizing recyclability and environmental compliance. I think that was my brief introduction. Hello?
Thank you so much. I think we had Elena coming up next, correct?
Yes. Hello from my side. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for having me at this warm-up session of the Global Green Action Day initiative. My name is Elena Yaneva. I come from Sofia, Bulgaria, and studied civil engineering at TU Wien in Austria, where I later also worked at the Institute of Material Technology, Building Physics, and Building Ecology. And I would like to present to you our startup, which we founded in the year 2022 in Vienna. We are Hempstatic and focus on developing biodegradable insulation with the goal to increase the use of biogenic raw materials in the construction sector and at the same time reduce CO2 emissions and also hazardous waste generation. We focus on developing insulation from plants on the one hand, focusing on the material development, and on the other hand, also on the development of the manufacturing processes. With our first product line, we are starting off in the field of acoustics and soundproofing. Later on, planning to expand our product portfolio to the thermal and also fire protection space. We have developed a new biocomposite based on hemp with extraordinary surface qualities that allows us to bring biocomposites to places where previously they were not finding usage. And here I would like to share with you a bit behind the curtains, how do we do it? So we started by exploring the material and doing thorough research on the recipes with the focus of developing a cost-effective material recipe, because we know how important it is from economic perspective to be able to bring an innovation that will be fast adopted from the market and can also pick up and achieve the envisioned impact. We started doing this already about 5 years ago, and continuously worked on developing prototypes and discovering the whole process of manufacturing. We focused on achieving robustness and consistent qualities and stabilizing these qualities throughout all the phases related to the manufacturing process. And one thing I can share with you, which is very exciting and also a huge challenge with bio-based materials in general, is the variability that we have of different factors. And this is something that we need to consider constantly in our R&D procedures. We achieved stable, consistent, homogeneous quality of our material, and are now working on the standardization and the scalability design of the manufacturing plant. Next, we plan to increase our capacities and scale to pilot series with the goal to also launch a semi-automated factory for bio-based installation. What you see here is also some interesting parameters I will highlight. One of the most important ones from our perspective. So when we talk about the sound insulation, we have very high absorption, already from 15% coverage of a wall or a ceiling in a building. We also design the material from the beginning on so that it is hardly inflammable. So without using any chemicals or toxic compounds, we achieve a very good fire resistance rate, which is important for the safety of the building. And the material is also designed really to be hypoallergenic, low to no VOCs, so really comfortable for the health of the building users and also for the health of the planet. Our material designs are based on 4 circular design principles, being the reusability, the repairability, the renewability of the components that we use, and then the biodegradability of the material itself. With our current recipes, we are able to reduce approximately 34 kilograms of CO2 per square meter. And on this image, you see microscopic visual of our material. Here, I would like to show you also the first projects that we have done with our first product, which are sound absorbers for reducing echo and reverberation in indoor spaces. Where we are getting a really good feedback from the users. And this is a product which will be scaled this year. In general, our concept is based on industrial symbiosis. So we look into how we can use resources from the region that are even residues. We can upcycle them and use the benefits of the plants, in this case, to solve acute problems in our sector. Here I'm talking about industrial symbiosis between the agricultural and the construction sector. And here you can see how we envision the life cycle of our materials. So from seed to panel, and then being brought back to the soil to close the carbon cycle. We are doing this together with our supporters, one of them being here also today, presenting right after me, Philip from Greiner Innoventures, who are our first investors and also INITs, and are part of EIA, the European International Hemp Association. We are also ambassadors of the new European Bauhaus, and working together with stakeholders on the standardization at European level of hemp insulation materials. I would like to invite you to grow with us, the bio-based building sector, and look forward to our follow-up discussion.
Super. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elena, for your presentation. Let me bring now Philip to stage. I think it's a very good follow-up after looking into Hempstatic. Please take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, also warm welcome from my side. I'm now introducing Kind InnoVentures to you. So Kind is a global converter, and Kind InnoVentures is basically the innovation branch of the kind of corporation to seek new ideas out there. So we are shaping the future for innovation and entrepreneurship. So we're shaping the future in general. We try to at least, but we're also shaping, of course, the company's future by using innovation to a large extent, as well as entrepreneurship, because we really think that the entrepreneurial mindset can help to push innovation in general and really push the boundaries in terms of being innovative as a corporate. A quick introduction about us. So we position ourselves as being a corporate business angel. We also happy to be investors in Hempstatic, and also within that context, we are operating as a corporate business angel and driving innovation, our strategic focus areas. By positioning ourselves as a corporate business angel, we go beyond the pure investment. Of course, we invest money into companies, but we also provide our network to the corporation. We try to give startups credibility with our investment, and also looking for partners both within the corporation of Kind, but also beyond. How do we work? So we have 3 pillars. First and foremost, we do foresight in order to identify future needs, demands out there. But also, as we know, the world is changing fast and in different directions, and we really try to identify those drivers through our foresight and future studies. The second thing is we do the scouting based on the foresight. We identify areas where we would like to be active. One big area for us as Kind InnoVentures is definitely circular economy and circular business models, as we help to transition the company from a more linear orientation in the past to a circular orientation in the future. And at the end of the day, it's about opportunity execution to select interesting targets, startups, basically, and offer them the best collaboration vehicle, as we call it. So let me elaborate a little bit more on our tools, how we do that. One tool is the venture building. So we use internal ideas, and we can then build on those ideas our own ventures with our own people within the company, within the borders of our existing corporation. The second tool would be the venture capital. So we acquire minority stakes. So we always try to be below the 25% ratio. We acquire minority stakes in startups, in early stage startups, I would say, in order to bring in external innovation to the corporation. And the third tool we have is venture clienting. So by that, we have a supplier relationship with startups who would normally potentially not qualify to be suppliers for us as a larger corporation, but with us as an organization in between the startup and the corporate, we really can bring on new technologies and products from startups at the very early stage, and also open the boundaries of our corporation to new innovation, basically. So yeah, with that being said, I would like to hand over to the panel again. Thank you.
Super. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation. Let me add to stage the other speakers, and it would be really good if we could have now kind of a bit more of an informal discussion on how to drive this, how to make it happen. Do you want to start, Evelina?
Yes, I do. So I was thinking, starting maybe with Hempstatic, you're pushing for innovation in the construction industry, which might be it's a traditional industry in many ways. It has long development cycles. There are a lot of potential regulatory hurdles. How do you manage risk and uncertainty in this space? Like while you are introducing a novel material, how do you manage that, the risk and uncertainty?
Thank you so much for this extremely crucial question. And this is actually one of my favorite topics to dig into in general, risks and how do we mitigate that, because we have a couple of dimensions, probably the most important ones being like the tech, the economic, and the legal dimension, and of course the standards that we need to adhere or even create for the new materials coming to the market. So one of the things that we started to do from very early on was really to collect that market feedback to understand what kind of a product would really fit to the need to the customer and can also have a shorter time to market. So having in mind all the regulations, certifications, and testing that we need to undergo in order to make a product market ready, we are thinking of solutions that would enable us to create a product that can have a shorter time to market, can be faster adopted, and start also validating the concept and the viability of the solution on the one hand and of the business on the other hand. And now we are exploring a way of growing horizontally by having created the core technology, which would allow us to scale also into different markets.
Wow. I mean, that takes a lot of practice also and discipline, I think, to work with that, work in that manner. Impressive. Over to you, Fernanda.
Super. I was thinking that it would be interesting also to ask Philip, since you were one of the investors, you are one of the investors in Hempstatic, and working and investing in startups that have this focus on the circular economy. In your experience, and maybe Helena, you can also pitch in, what are the biggest barriers? It was really interesting that you had in your slide that those 3 levels of engagement. But I guess that there's also internal challenges when it comes to for Greiner to embrace these innovations coming from the outside. Do you have any ideas on how to address that?
Yes, I mean, the biggest challenge probably is that it's innovation from the outside. And with that, there comes some skepticism. So the not invented here syndrome is probably a thing of many corporates out there, and rightfully so. So you should be and can be skeptical regarding external innovations. However, at some point, it really makes sense to open the boundaries of a corporation and to bring in fresh ideas from the outside and also be faster at the end of the day. So there is some risk, there is some uncertainty involved, and people and companies don't like risks. They don't like uncertainty to the full degree, but this is something inevitable. You really have to take a little bit of risk, embrace uncertainty, and at the end of the day, you open up the boundaries of a corporation and you bring in new innovations. The concept of open innovation is probably 2 decades old now, and it's about time to put it into practice, and hence we have those 3 tools basically, which are all grounded deeply in open innovation, in opening up to the outside world. The world is quite complex. It always has been complex. It's getting more complicated maybe as well to get things done and orchestrate, especially in circular economy, all the partners and all the entities. So this is the only thing you can do to succeed at the end of the day and to have long-term success.
Music to my ears. I'm a big fan of open innovation. Also, one of the ideas with the Global Green Action Day. So that sounds really, really interesting. Evelina, do you have one more question?
Yes, I do. I was thinking maybe Elena, do you want to react to that? Like being the external innovation, like what is your thinking about this?
Absolutely. So definitely a huge job to be done from our side is building up that trust and credibility on the one side with the partners with whom we imagine to grow, on the other side, of course, with our investors who are the ones enabling us to grow timely, and then last but not least, also with the customers who have to gain the confidence of using the new materials, the new products. So our job is to cater their needs in a way that allows us to build up this confidence. And this means that we try to show, to be really authentic of where we stand, what we can do, and to connect to people who are experiencing pain points that we can really solve with our current solution, gain references. And this is from the customer side. Then from the investor side, I would say it's a huge responsibility to build a use case which would not require a huge capex investment in the beginning. Being a manufacturing startup, we know that capex is equal to risk. So this is something that we have been considering from the beginning on, and trying to be lean and trying to really rethink the way we do building materials, or we do building products today, which requires just to focus on using the resources and the means that we have now to come to the next step, instead of overbloating, a huge vision and getting lots of investment before, for example, preparing the market. And on the regulatory side, I would say we cooperate with regulatory bodies, standardization bodies on national and international level. And I briefly mentioned it in my presentation. Now I would like to just highlight it one more time, that last year, through the European Industrial Hemp Association, all actors working on hemp, hemp building materials came together to revise, together with the Commission, the standards related to the construction products. And this is something that is happening just now. So it's really exciting times for bio-based materials. We would need to work cooperatively to achieve the scalability that would enable us to reach the impact that we really need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. I have a question.
May I add something to that?
Yes, of course.
Real
Yes,
quick,
please.
because Elena really and her team, they have shown that you can do things differently. I mean, you can think of doing things differently, but they actually do it differently. And we see that now you can do sound absorption on a bio-based material foundation as good, technically as good as you would do with traditional materials, with foam-based materials. And in the doing and in the showing and in the action, there's a lot of power, and they have shown it. And this was also inspiring for us as a company and for my colleagues. So yeah, thank you, Elena, for that.
I think that this is also something that Paptic has quite a bit of experience, right, Alexandros, to kind of how a bio-based material can match the current solutions, or in the case of Paptic, even try to outperform when it comes to the customer experience. So how does Paptic navigate this balance between kind of innovation, the regulatory compliance, market adoption, the changes in the industry, some of the aspects that Elena was also addressing?
I think you summed it up well. I think the line is working and learning in chaos, and I think that stands for us, but it also stands for our partners. It stands for the brand. It stands for everybody, especially when you're thinking, what is the position where we are at the moment when we're trying to see the switch from plastics into new sustainable materials, which in the case of Paptic is fiber-based materials. So we're starting to fight a war, and mostly using weapons of the past. So we're working mainly on 3 pillars. Basically, as you said, we need to verify that mechanical performance is there. So big brands, companies do not actually want to have the risk of reducing their efficiency, their production efficiency. So we want to make sure that the mechanical performance satisfying the product needs is actually there, but also operational efficiency. So that means that we have to come up to the challenge that our materials actually run on the same speeds as plastics, given the existing lines. So there's no capex investment attached to our solution. And that we have been extremely successful in doing. Since our solution, we have now verified that it runs exactly the same speeds as plastics on the lines without need any any sort of adjustments other than very few adjustments. On the second pillar is the regulatory compliance, and there is where we see that we add significant value. As I said, moving from plastics to fiber is a total new way of thinking. It's a new way of assessing sustainability. It's a new way of assessing the criteria for selecting a material. So we have found actually value in navigating our customers, our end accounts, into how what sort of regulation is applicable, and also what is the view ahead in the future of how regulation will move. So that has helped immensely. And lastly, but surely not least, as you said, is on functional performance. I think we come from a past, especially when we started thinking about sustainable materials, that we were also having the assumption in our minds that sustainable materials means sacrificing in terms of performance, but also sacrificing in terms of aesthetics or experience. That is not the case for our materials. So we sort of had this mission in our mind that we needed to prove that sustainability is not boring. So we bring sustainable solutions while at the same time they enhance the user experience. So you get, for hygiene application, you get a material that is soft, extremely silent and discreet, and sort of prepares the way of the actual product. So enhancing the user experience, but also increasing the perceived product value. So for the end users, they are able to actually maintain their regulatory compliance, achieve their sustainability goals, and at the same time provide further value to their product. And that is something that we've seen a lot of traction in the market and quite high interest.
I think that's so super interesting, kind of making it even better. And I just wanted to kind of highlight also the point that you made, Alexandros, about being able to run in the same lines. That
Yes.
for the client, it should be an easy switch. Okay, you have plastics, you have Paptic. It shouldn't require that extra investment, because otherwise, then it starts to be a hurdle, right? It's a problem. I would like to bring here also some questions to the audience. So I would like to just ask Amir to join us and see if we have some questions coming up.
Yeah, we have like 2 or 3 questions. I think the first one actually touches on what both Alexandros and Elena touched upon, but maybe Elena, it's directed to Elena, so maybe she wants to double click there. And it's asking, how does your hemp-based solution compare with wood fiber-based alternatives in terms of sustainability and performance? So maybe you want to just give a couple of examples of comparison there.
Absolutely. So in comparison to wood, we know wood or timber solutions are currently gaining a momentum in the construction sector, taking in mind how much CO2 can be sequestered, saved, and reduced from operations, which is great. Yet it is clear that wood only will not be a sufficient resource to look into if we really want to achieve faster impact and deploy it now. So this is what made us look into hemp and really focus on residues and focus on perspectives where we can build new value chains and establish new ways of bringing regional economic value to various stakeholders by focusing on solving this issue. And in regards to hemp or hemp residues versus wood residues, hemp as plant offers multiple benefits. There is a page of the European Commission dedicated to hemp where some of them are also listed, like the biodiversity aspect, the breaking the cycle of diseases, which is very important from the agricultural perspective. Also the carbon storage, since hemp is an annual plant, it allows us for a very short amount of time, 3 to 4 months, to save the same amount of CO2 as we would with a forest for 7 years of the same size. So this is where we see the impact focus being really relevant for growing this solution.
Fascinating. I mean, so much information, so much knowledge there. Thank you. I think the second one is for Philip, but others are welcome to jump in if you have any comments. So, and that, of course, Philip, share what you feel comfortable sharing. You described how you kind of scan the market, you see where are the opportunities and things like that. where do you see more gaps today? We heard about 2 solutions here, right, from Alexandros and Elena, but where do you see opportunities and gaps in the market today? So if anybody listening to this live event or listening to the recording later might consider, here's a gap, maybe I can fill it with some innovation.
Absolutely. So yeah, I would say generally, as we are as a society, I would say transitioning from a more linear oriented economy to a circular economy, I think to basically keep nothing untouched and think everything through, what could be done, potentially could be done in a circular business model at the end of the day, should be done at this point. Not that we can transition in a very short time everything to a circular economy. However, to start the process and to try things, I think there are no limits, to be honest. At the end of the day, and Fernanda had that in her introduction, that resonates very well with what I think. You need to come up with a value proposition that is valuable, and it's not a startup or a corporate who decides what valuable is, it's the customers out there. So if you manage to come up with a value proposition in a circular business model that has all the convenience and economic benefits at the end of the day, I think you will definitely succeed, and we will see a lot of transition from linear to circular in the future. We see a lot of things going on in the recycling, so in one cycle at least, but we are also transitioning into reuse models. We are venturing into refurbishing models and things like that. I think it's a very exciting time, to be honest, and to be a startup, to try things out. There's some funding out there for those endeavors. And I think there's a big demand out there to try things out. I mean, the majority will fail. That's the sad news. However, those who will survive will have great business opportunity at the end of the day. Yeah.
And just because we don't want to fail, and being a bit mindful of time, could we have as a last round to each one of the speakers with, if you could select 1 or 2 tips, tricks on how to do this, what would be your advice to everyone out there? And maybe I can start with you, Alexandros. If you would do all this again, what would be the mistakes you would not commit? What would be your main tips?
I think, coming from a background working in multinationals and established firms, I think I would say to myself that I had to be more bold. We all have to be a bit more bold and actually be more courageous in bringing our ideas forward. I would think also what we've seen as being successful in our business is when we actually manage to make our customers see things the way we see them, share a vision and make them share that vision with us. So basically, I would say we need to be more bold and actually feeling more comfortable while we are uncomfortable in uncomfortable situations with a lot of uncertainty. And I think this is what mainly startups are really good at. They're really good at being very calm during periods of really big, higher uncertainty, and they're very calm in failing because, as Philip said, the majority of the things you will try out, they will fail. And this is where we see massive value. And we also see massive value in the terms that we cannot accomplish this by ourselves. We rely on a converter network, we rely on our contract manufacturers, we rely on the brands. So it's a huge value chain that there is actual value to it, that we get to involve people in our projects and we get to learn with them as we go along. So I would guess, be more bold, that we can actually bring change to the market and that this change is actually needed. So we have to be bold and actually go for it.
Really love it. Very, very good advice. Philip, very quickly, your main tips on how to do this.
Yes, try 10 things, succeed with 2, do that for 5 years, and you will end up really changing the world. And yeah, having done as a society things in a linear way, it's about to do things in a circular way, and it's a perfect excuse to try things out. Be bold, be brave, and yeah, and it's also about the action at the end of the day. It's about the doing. Yeah.
Very, very good. Love it. Elena, one word, kind of quickly, your main tips.
My word would definitely be persistence, because it really pays off. Bringing on innovation can be really challenging. So coming together with the right people, which will be the like-minded people who will be empowering you, encouraging you, and also helping you to develop what is really viable for the market. So that would be it. Come together with like-minded, and be ready for a journey which will be very challenging. So have that in mind, that fastest success is not guaranteed, and just be realistic about it and go for it, and come out fast with a prototype that you can validate, and then navigate the development from there.
This is really good advice. Be bold, keep doing it, and come together. This could almost be kind of the new motto for the Global Green Action Day. I'm just going to take this last moment here together to, of course, thank you to all our speakers. It has been really, really interesting. Thank you so much for being with us. And before we wrap up, just to give a bit more information about the Global Green Action Day. So basically, we're here within the warm-up sessions. Like I said, coming up in the end of April, we're going to have our training, which kind of sets the tone and kind of an introduction to the Global Green Action Day. It's going to be online, and it's going to be in the 3 countries. So the price is 450 euros for the whole thing, including the accelerator sessions, etc. We are also really, really looking for challenges, because if we're coming together to solve problems, we need to start with the problems. So it's an open call for challenges. This year's theme from the UN World Environment Day is ending plastic pollution. So that would be super, super interesting. But also challenges that are related to sustainability in general, and also to the modules that we are addressing: circular economy, decarbonization, AI for sustainability, kind of business strategy. So within the content that we are addressing in the training, and each challenge is for 5,000 euros, and we are going to have several teams within the different locations addressing the challenges. So we make sure that we also add that extra layer of diversity of thoughts to the challenges. So please make sure that you join us. If we have anyone listening that, this organization, this association, we should be associated to this, come in contact with us. Yes, please. We want to collaborate. We want to do this together. And make sure that you already save in your calendars our upcoming warm-up sessions. So on the 8th of April, we are going to have one on AI and sustainability. Ariane Jansson from WWF here in Sweden is going to present a really interesting report on AI for sustainability. And then on the 16th of April, we are going to look a bit more in depth within plastic pollution. We have Åsa Stenmark, that is the national responsible at Naturvårdsverket, the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency, responsible for plastics. And then we have from Zero Waste Europe, Larissa Copello de Souza, and also from Zero Waste Netherlands, Elisa Pals, that are going to join us. So it's going to be a very, very concrete hands-on session looking into plastic pollution. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here and being in this session. And we hope to meet you very soon at the Global Green Action Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.